Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Frontlines podcast. I'm Tim Sackett with my incredible host and best friend, Madeline Laurano. Madeline, how are you doing?
Hi, Tim. I'm excited to be here with our very special guest.
It only took us 14 minutes today to get this up and running because Madeline got to do an unboxing video of her new mic that was given to her by the Workday Paradox team. That brings us to our guest, Adam Godson, who is the general manager of talent products, Workday. I don't understand. The title's evolving, but give us a little bit, like what do you actually do, Adam?
Sure, Tim. Good to be with you. Hey, Madeline. I'm Adam Godson. Been in the talent acquisition industry a long time. I was the CEO of Paradox, and so joined the team within the acquisition in October, and now I'm running all the talent acquisition products at Workday. So it includes Paradox, of course, the Hired Score, Workday recruiting, candidate engagement, and messaging. So all the things that work in TA.
Nice. Now, Adam, I know, like you said, you had mentioned you were the CLO for a good stint, but you were actually like a real, actual HR TA practitioner for a number of years as well. Like, how did you get into this game?
Yeah, I started my career as a recruiter. So hiring on the manufacturing line. So my best trick was I'd go like hang a sign by the highway that said now hiring. And I mean like physically go move a sign, and have people come in for open interviews and we'd talk to them right there. We'd make hiring decisions on the spot sometimes. Then it, of course, worked into engineering and IT and other roles. And I got to fall in love with the problem as a young person. And then two things happened. One, the scale bothered me. Like even on my busiest day, I could only like interview 10, 12 people, something like that.
Yeah.
And then as like the technologically savvy person, like I got assigned all the tech projects. So implementing ATSs when I was
22. Going to ask like how you went, because you went from like practitioner right into like CLO, like to actually doing tech stuff. And like, were you just the nerdy guy that was like, hey, I know how to like reboot a computer? And they're like, okay, you're the tech guy.
Yeah. Well, so I studied at MIS in school, and so I had some tech background. But just always got assigned those projects. And I thought that that was the key to unlocking scale. I didn't think the tech was that good. And those two things met in magical moments and the way we went.
So you implemented an ATS at 20. They just threw you right in there. That's
literally. It was like, okay, here, do.
I mean, it was Madeline. It was green screens. Like it wasn't real ATS.
We did run some green screens there for sure. We did some AS400 for sure.
Most of them like, still are.
He built it on COBOL. Like,
amazing.
So good.
He's and not that. Like I'm like making old jokes, and he's not. Like I'm like way older than he is.
No, I remember having to hire like AS400 programmers in those days, and being like, "We want someone that's really motivated, not so motivated they learned a new technology in the last 20 years, but someone that's also still very motivated." I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah. Adam, one of the things we do on the Frontlines pod, by the way, before we get started, I mean, obviously you're like obviously a Workday executive. I want to shout out how I always, this is how bad of a pod host I am. I forget to like mention the sponsor. So like shout out to Workday and Workday by Paradox, or however we're going to call this, for sponsoring the pod. I believe, and this is not because you're on, that it's the number one frontline hiring solution on the planet. I've yet to hear anyone that's turned Paradox on that didn't say, holy crap, it actually works, which is like the best kind of feedback ever for a solution in our industry. Adam, I want to start with this question, which is, and we do this with every single guest we've had. You're the first one. What is your?
He did it with me too, Adam.
Every single one.
Adam was. And the first episode
got
we did
this question.
What was your first frontline job?
Oh, so I'll cut this two ways. So I'm from Iowa, so that's the first context. And so you
did detasseling of corn?
Yeah, detasseling corn. So I know what this is, but I'll explain for the folks that aren't from the Midwest. But
that's for real?
Yeah, for real.
Oh, it's for real. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So if you'll count that, taking the tops off of corn in a field. It's how all the teachers at the school made real money. Is they just got all the 14-year-olds who couldn't work anywhere else, and they'd make more money doing that in a month than the entire rest of the year for their salary.
You have to explain detasseling to, like, I know you just pull the thing off the top, but like you have to explain why you detassel corn.
Yeah. Okay. So seed corn needs to be a hybrid has to be made between male and female corn. You didn't even know that existed. And so to make this happen, you have to pull the top off, the tassel part off of the female corn. And so you get a bunch of kids in a school bus and you run them to this field, and then they have to walk the rows and they pull off the tops of the corn of those certain rows. And it gets hot. So you start at 5 a.m. and you go till 3 or 4 in the afternoon. You do this 3 or 4 weeks in the summer, and that's how you make your money for the year.
Yeah.
So Adam
And then how are you paid?
desexed corn, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
To make sweet corn. Yeah.
Yes. Well, so that was the rub. So the teachers would get paid by the acre, and they would contract this, but then they'd pay the students by the hour, and so that's how they would make the arbitrage to I don't know, buy a boat or something.
Right. Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's your first job.
And then I washed dishes. So I did work at a Boston market washing dishes when I was 15 also.
Yeah, when was the switch? Was it first Boston Chicken, then Boston Market, or was it the opposite?
Boston Market first.
Yeah.
And then went to Boston Chicken.
The Boston creds.
Yeah.
I used to like Boston Market was like the first kind of like we thought, oh well, I don't want to feed my kids like McDonald's, so we're gonna feed them real food, so we went to Boston Market.
Rotisserie chicken. Yeah.
Yeah, ahead of its time.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's a dishwasher. Yeah, I did that too. That's where you learn a lot about what happens.
So much education.
A lot of education. I know. I was holding a tray once, and everything fell off the tray, and then everyone's staring. Everyone hated me after that.
Yeah, you like, all the feels in those moments.
Yeah,
right?
We're going to take those dishes out of your first check, and you're like, exactly. I won't have a check for 3 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Scrawny 15-year-old. Yeah.
Adam, I want to talk a little bit about frontline hiring because that's why we have this podcast. You think about like, obviously you've been able to have probably thousands of conversations with like organizations and leaders on the frontline, like hiring thing. You obviously built like an amazing product for this and continue to kind of build around what's happening and kind of put things together at Workday. What are the things when you think like common things that you found, like, I mean, like, because we always like get into this and you're like, oh, if we could just solve these 2 or 3 things, most people wouldn't have this issue. So when you think about like the common things that pretty much everyone's getting wrong in frontline hiring, what is it?
There's a few. So you're right that it's putting some different things together. So it is, one of those is asking for too much information and not really understanding the basis that we're making a decision. So early days of Paradox, we can recall going to restaurants and like standing behind a hiring manager who's usually looking at paper applications and just like annoying them to be like, hey, what are you looking at? Like, what are you looking for? And if you remember these job applications, like they would have way too much stuff. Like, what is the address of your previous employer 2 jobs ago? And who is your previous supervisor's name? And the checkbox, like, can I talk to them? And you're like, why do you want to talk to them? Like, just all this irrelevant stuff. And what we distilled was they were looking for like, is this person eligible to work? Can they work these hours? And sometimes I wasn't even on the application. And do they have, is there some evidence that they are responsible enough to show up to work? Like that's what they were looking for.
The first thing you look at is the name. Can I pronounce the name? Because I don't want to try to call the person and not know their name, which is again is a huge bias. But I'm telling you right now, working at Applebee's, I like would watch general managers go through applications and go, "Oh, I'm putting that one aside," and I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, I don't think the person can speak English. And I'm like, and it wasn't actually an English name. They just didn't know how to pronounce it. Right. And so we were just like, oh my God, like, this is terrible.
Yeah. Well, so then it was, we just simplified our system to ask those questions. Are you eligible to work? Can you work these hours? Can you lift this box or do the basic?
Have you had a felony? Like,
Right. Like just like, instead of trying to infer and make a bunch of, to your point, assumptions that might be biased, just ask the questions. And I think the second is dealing with walk-in traffic, hiring your customers, and they already know how to get there. They already have some affinity for your brand, and also just sometimes the need is really immediate. I was at a meeting. This is maybe 2-3 months ago at a Wendy's, one of our franchisee customers, and the guy was wiping tables. Said, "Hey, like my name is Adam. Like how did you come to work here?" His name was also Adam, and he was like, "Oh, okay." Like I was going through the drive-through because I was hungry, and on the receipt it said, "Need money now hiring. Text apply to 12345 whatever the
Yeah.
short code was." And he's like, "Oh," so I was like, "I need money," and so we did it, and it asked him the basic questions through text, and by the time he got his food, it already asked him, "Hey, do you want to schedule an interview?" And the interview was the next day, and then he got hired and started the next day, and I was there, and I met him on his second day, and so it was just one of those things. Like he was not thinking that hard about it, wasn't thinking he needed a job. He happened to be in the drive-through and saw an ad, needed money, and 3 days later he was standing in front of me. So it was one of those just moments where the much of the bottom line is like hire your customers and like just don't overcomplicate this
Yeah.
and keep it simple.
Yeah. Two
Yeah, I
things,
think
like
go ahead.
I've
Go
done
ahead.
so many case studies with Workday Paradox clients or conversations, and two things stand out to me, like two different conversations. One, I think it was Lowe's, and they were saying that they just wanted, like, they had one location where everybody would go and apply for a job, but they had a Lowe's half a mile down the street that they couldn't find people, and people just didn't know that location as well as the other. So just having Paradox, hey, did you also know there's a location half a mile away? And candidates didn't even know that. That was like one thing that stood out to me. It was like game changer for them. And then the other was a large company. They had a candidate apply for a job, and their first language is French, and it was somewhere on their application that they put that. So Paradox then would just communicate. Olivia was just communicating in French. And it
Yeah.
meant so much that they ended up writing a letter to
Oh,
whether it was a store or restaurant about how much it meant to them that they interviewed them in French.
yeah, that's funny because then that's often really opaque to companies. We implemented a large frontline hiring organization that they'd always had a policy that they would interview in English and in Spanish, and they'd had this policy, but their applications didn't function that way. And so when they put in Paradox and Olivia could speak Spanish, they had this massive influx where they had to like stop and do like a full training to get more people to interview in Spanish. And they had no idea that for years and years, all these people had wanted to apply in Spanish but couldn't
Yeah.
do it. And then when they could, they had this massive influx of Spanish speaking people that they weren't prepared to interview. But it was just one of those, to your point about they didn't really know what was happening until they made that change, and then were able to see that the policy that they'd made wasn't very effective because the technology couldn't execute.
Yeah, we at Applebee's, we saw that. I mean, if I had a back of the house, like, kitchen manager that could speak Spanish, they never had a staffing issue. And if you had one that couldn't speak Spanish, they always struggled because they wouldn't hire anybody, and you're just like, "No, like, all you really need to do is hire one bilingual Spanish-speaking person in your kitchen and then have them help you hire, and you're gonna be fine." Like, and they just struggled with that so bad, and you're just like, again, this is back obviously before Paradox days, so, a little bit more difficult on that. Um, so we're like on the front line side, and I know like we haven't gotten like mass adoption yet, but it seems like, we're getting to that tipping point where I think companies finally understand you better have tech supply or conversational apply, and being able to do that really well. I know, at one point, our friend Chris Dunn, who is the CHRO of the US Canada for Marriott, turned on Paradox as well. And before that, he actually was in Denver and he met with like 35 general managers of hotels. And so there was a timing factor of when somebody applies, if you can get to them within an hour,
Mm.
and so they had 2 hotels that weren't having staffing issues, and what they did was literally went down to like Walmart, bought a burner phone, and like as soon as somebody applied, whatever manager was on staff had to call that person, right? Within that, like 24/7,
Yeah.
365. And that was the only thing they did different was like immediately call anyone who applied. And you're just like, so they manufactured this, like muscled it to make it happen versus using like technology. But it's such a like indicator, I think, of like how fast can you get to somebody in that space to apply. When you guys take a look at that timing from like pre-Paradox to when somebody turns it on, what's the timing difference?
It's massive, and it depends what's happening, pre Paradox. But I think one of our earliest case studies was taking quick service restaurant hiring from 21 days to 3, and be able to make that change. Was working with one of our Dutch retailers. They're presented at Rising Rituals. Their goal was to take time to hire from 60 days to 30, and they were at 7. And so we typically we see that kind of movement. And I was actually looking at some data just the other day that our team produced, and it was bell curving this. I think our average time to hire for QSR in frontline is around 3.5 days. So that's average. But our top 10% of people on that curve hire in 5 hours. And so to your point, Tim, about
It's
same
insane.
day,
Yeah.
about those things. So that is being able to have someone walk in, either do it real time or be able to do it online, get a text, get a phone call, get a decision. 5 hours for average. So it can be done, and I think the whole world is speeding up, and it's making it more competitive.
One of the things I hear from like TA leaders is like, hey, we can do this for frontline, hourly, no skill, low skill kind of hiring. Tim, there's no way our white collar workers would ever do this. Like, that's insane. And I think that's kind of BS. I think actually there's no difference. I think if I'm applying to a white collar job in the initial apply process, I probably am more likely to like do a conversational apply than I am a standard. Have you guys seen that with some of your customers? Are they doing the white collar side?
Yes, I mean, like no one really wants friction in the hiring process.
Yeah.
So I think some of the difference is just understanding the fidelity, and then I think for companies it is the stakes in the decision that can happen. So if someone comes in and doesn't show on day two in the front line, sometimes it's like, okay, look, on to the next. If you're going to invest tens of thousands in training and onboarding of an employee in a professional or a executive role, like that's the cost of a decision might be different. But your point is valid, Tim, in that like all the waiting that happens in processes is the spot to eliminate, and how can we go faster and make better decisions. And a lot of that comes down to the idea that you need to take a lot of time to develop a candidate pool, and that's actually not true in this day and age, where maybe it's not 100% there now, but we will get to a point of perfect availability of information between jobs and candidates, where you can have the companies know where the talent is, and the talent knows where the companies are, and you can develop that talent pool really fast. We'll get out of this. Oh, you got to post it for 30 days before you can do much of anything because you got to see who applies. Like we'll move into more of a hunting role than a gathering role.
Yeah.
Well, even
Madeline, do
even
you
on the
see that in your
corporate
research?
side, yeah, I mean, even on the corporate side too, I think it also comes down to communication. So it's about kind of this idea that we need a process that needs to be and take this long, but it's also around the communication with that too. I mean, what Workday Paradox does is it provides immediate communication, which candidates just haven't had. I mean,
Yeah.
our other friend at Marriott, Tyler Weeks, um, I've always referenced this case study that we did with him when he was at Intel, which is they looked at time to fill, which was 40 days. And that's pretty standard for a company like Intel. But then they started measuring time to respond, and that was 90 plus days. So
Yeah.
you are filling a position in 40 days, but you're not letting all those candidates that did not get the job know that that job is filled and they should look elsewhere until 90 days.
Yeah, and we see that, imagine like the
Yeah,
communication in the for interviewing even is a simple example of a sub step of that, and that we do
right.
lots of that at the corporate level, which is we can take that, and our average time to schedule an interview is 2.5 minutes,
Yeah.
where it used to be 3 days, and so great, there's X steps in an interview process. You just took that part down and compressed that, so we know we can do it faster and take out the waiting. It's just taking the step by step of how we do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It
I
is
have a
interesting.
question thinking
Go
about
ahead.
just is this something that everyone understands that there's a better option for frontline hiring, or do they not understand it? I mean, we all know that there's a better option. We've done case studies. We know what you do at Workday, Paradox. But when you look at the market and you look at your opportunity, where is the market? Are we behind still? Is there tremendous opportunity? Or most companies now exploring better options and understand that they need, you know, to be able to communicate, to text to apply, to
Yeah,
use
yeah.
SMS.
I think we're into the middle of the cycle there,
Yeah.
where we've gotten enough adoption where I think we've caused real pressure in the labor market to hire faster. So companies that aren't hiring fast enough have a competitive disadvantage and are losing. And to them, that likely feels like a lot of ad spend. It feels like candidates are no showing their interviews. It's because they already got hired at the place down the street. Um, and so I'd probably separate those into a couple of groups. There's of course people that don't that are unaware that there's a better solution out there, and And there's those that are stuck in legacy systems that feel like they don't have control over that. And the reality is that you can put Paradox, other tools on top of those systems to make them function in a way that gets great results. And we see, have examples for days of people that have done that. But today we're scheduling about 1 out of every 10 interviews in the US. And so the market has been moved
That's
in that.
amazing.
Yeah, it's been it's cool to be able to make a dent in the.
He just drops that stat. Hey, by the way, 10% of all interviews we do.
Yeah, well, it's that means there's 90% more to go. But
Yeah.
but it's good just to see that, and I think from us as we talk to prospects, we know there's pressure for them to hire faster because they see their competitors hiring, some of them in 5 hours, some of them in 3.5 days. So people that are taking weeks to hire have staffing issues and they feel it.
Question, as you think about this as like a technology builder, leader, the candidate black hole is a real thing still. Like, I mean, Madeline just referenced that with, the Tyler Weeks thing is like, we're hiring candidates before we even let the other candidates know that we're not going to hire them. When you think of like the AI power of conversational and the things that are there, do you believe like within the next 12 to 24 months that you're going to be able to solve this kind of candidate black hole where a candidate will actually know and be able to have a conversation with AI to know where they're at, what happened, and if something's going to happen or not happen?
Yes is the answer. I believe that most companies have enough applicants. They are operating too slow, and I actually really like saying that in the room with operators. They'll make some complaint about candidates no showing interviews or something like that. I'm like, oh, this is you're too slow, and we've got lots of evidence of that. I mentioned our friends Mark at Rituals who presented at Rising. I was really jazzed about his reduction in time to hire. What he was jazzed about was his reduction in applicants per hire or per job.
Yeah.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's something like they used to have 80 applicants per job, and now they've got like 15. And so that is, to that point, 65 less people that had to be disappointed or communicated with in that. And so in some ways, it's having fewer people that are even in the process because you're going faster. You don't have this, 90-day period, 60-day period where you're collecting applicants and people are applying, where if you can just get the whole thing done in 3 days, then you're going to have fewer people to communicate with. And then the second part of that is being able to take those people and make a new recommendation to get them to the right job as fast as possible. And so that was for your point, Mads, which is just, hey, the job is filled at 3rd Street. How about 9th Street? Are you in for this? And so this is a solvable problem. And it's one of the, I would say, more than a few symptoms that talent acquisition has caused of its own doing, that we've kind of caused our own problems, and it's just symptom of something else.
Well, this goes back to your secret sauce when you were a practitioner of putting the sign on the highway kind of thing, now hiring, because there is a candidate behavior change thing. Because I agree with you. And I used to, like, for 10 years, I think I made money on basically telling people to put this stupid sign in their front yard that, hey, we're actually hiring. Like, stop hiding from people that you're hiring, right?
Yeah.
But I said the trick is you actually have to put it out for a few days and then take it down. Because otherwise it becomes noise, right?
That's right.
And like people will just drive by it and the ones that, like, I've always go by like you and I are Midwest guys, and you go by these like manufacturing shops that have the permanent sign out front, and you're like, it just becomes, people stop looking at it. But if you take it up and down, they'll go, oh, hey, they must have filled that job. Crap, I was going to apply. And then you put it out a week later, and then the person goes, oh my gosh, I have another one open. I better apply right away. So you're trying to change that behavior. And if you move fast, and they know that you're going to move fast, then you'll get that reaction,
Yeah, that's right. And the evergreen rec is right, and is just a digital version of that, where if it's always open, then it's never open. And I think we've fooled ourselves into thinking that collecting data that frankly expires quite quickly of any usefulness, that's a positive thing, and it's really not. You're, to your point, Tim, way better off going really hot and fast when you're actually hiring, and then stopping hiring.
Yep.
Yeah. Adam, I'm going to throw a tough question at you, because I think Madeline and I have dealt with this since you guys got acquired by Workday, because we've had a lot of leaders call us that are SAP, Oracle, UKG, blah, 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 Infor, whatever. And they're like, hey, we're either using Paradox or we would have been interested in using Paradox, but now that Workday bought them, like now we're scared because Workday could decide, hey, we're just going to shut it off to you guys, right? It's only for Workday customers. And
Or they're
again,
worried
like
about integration, just about how it's going to
or the
integrate.
or
Yeah.
whatever. And so obviously you were the CEO of Paradox, and now you run all of the talent products for Workday. What's your philosophy on this in terms of like what does that look like for the people outside of a Workday ecosystem in terms of being able to use Paradox?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that we talk our clients about regularly. Um, Frankly, when Workday called last year and proposed the idea, it was one of the things that was most important to me that we would serve the whole market. Where Workday is the market leader in talent acquisition, 60% of the Fortune 500, so great scale. That was the other
Yeah.
an interesting part too, but I don't think it would have been that interesting to not serve the whole market. And for me, like my purpose is to make a dent in the universe of hiring and make it better,
Yeah.
and really reduce friction between companies and candidates, and that creates net good in the world. And that's why I want to do it. And so that's been part of the strategy from the beginning. I didn't have to push on it. That was the strategy from Workday too, is that we want to see this as a way to expand the market for them. And so we've got more than half our clients are not on Workday.
Yeah.
And so they're on other systems, and we are committed to serving them long term. We've got new clients coming. Over a dozen new clients came last quarter that are signing up, that are on SAP, Oracle, other systems that are coming. We're committed to those integrations. We're writing it in contracts,
Yeah.
and so we're all the way there to serve the whole market, and we think we can continue to do that long term. And it's literally the strategy
Yeah.
to do that, and to bring it everywhere that frontline talent exists. We want to be there.
Well, I think it's a great. I mean, I think overall, like, I mean, we want to talk about like obviously Workday and ERPs in general, SAP, Oracle, Workday are giant systems, right? And talent products are a slice of that, entire huge system. But I think it's naive to think that you can't use it as a dev opportunity for organizations that go, hey, actually hiring is probably one of the most critical things we do. And so if we're on X system and we're not using Workday, but we want to use Paradox, does it have that tipping point to go, well, shoot, maybe we should take a look at it? Like, heck yes. So it would be silly for Workday to kind of close out the rest of the ecosystem by saying like, oh, only Workday customers are going to use this. You're like, it's naive to think like you can't use that as a biz dev opportunity,
Yeah, for sure, and I think that's part of that is the strategy, and I think we'll see that for some others as well. Like there used to be this paradigm. I've gotten to pick ATSs for 20 years,
Yeah.
where you had to choose between something that was connected to the rest of your data, or you had to choose something with the features you wanted. And those things were like the opposing ends of a spectrum. I don't really think that's going to be true going forward. I think you essentially get to be connected to the core system, and then have agents that can do the work. And
Yeah.
I think there are times those agents are going to be first party agents, sort of deeply connected, like they will at Workday, and there are sometimes they're going to be integrated in, and are going to have the way of working that will help to get to that data and operate within the other systems too. So I think we've kind of found a third rail on that, which is being able to have the agents access data in systems that are platforms and get work done. And that's, I think, what we're seeing in this new era.
In an immediate way. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam,
So I have a
I'll
question.
get you out. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I have one question, Adam. So, we know Workday Paradox, we know frontline hiring. That's what we're here to talk about. But Workday is also a leader in just frontline workforce and workforce
Yeah.
management. And this we're learning about. I mean, I think maybe a lot of companies don't realize everything that Workday does to support frontline workers across the whole employee life cycle. Could you talk a little bit about some of the other areas that Workday leads in frontline workforce?
Yeah, it's a really good point, because hiring is one of the most immediate things. That's an area of passion for me, and you as well. But it also has lots of downstream cycles of how we can serve organizations. One of the ways that's most immediate is workforce planning, and I think that's one of the core opportunities where Workday can do it substantially better than others, because of its connection to the business data. And even the best companies, I'm talking like world-class companies that we often see, have some sort of I'll call it delay and manual steps in the workforce plan of like business data.
Yep.
And there's, gosh, always a spreadsheet in the middle that comes, and sometimes like a 2-week at best cycle about how we translate our business data to our workforce plan, and then it pushes out to like the hiring system. And the idea is to be able to like, okay, like let's take the business data and get it right in through to the hiring plan. And so I think that's one of the areas that's really impactful. And then even downstream from that, things like shift scheduling. Is an area that Workday is pushing hard in and has some good traction on, and I think that leads to workforce flexibility of maybe this isn't a job, maybe this is a shift, and below a shift it's a task or a gig, and being able to think about how work gets done more broadly. And then the last connection point is even Vindley, which is contingent labor for us of maybe this doesn't have to be done by a employed full-time worker. Maybe this happens for someone that is a contractor, and just thinking about how all those things tie together to frankly fulfill the labor demand of a frontline organization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, even things at Workday, I mean, internal mobility is obviously something that you've
Huge.
done at Paradox, but also huge for Workday. But when you think about how that impacts the frontline workforce, Tim and I talked about this on the first podcast. It's not just, okay, I want to now be a manager. It's like, I don't want to work this shift anymore,
Right.
or I can't work these hours. My schedule is completely changed. I have to pick my kids up after school.
Right.
That's internal mobility. And, Workday can support that in a way that a lot of other companies can't.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It is back to be like, can I work at the 3rd Street location from the 9th Street
Yep.
location to which I'm normally
Yep.
assigned, or how do
Yeah.
I do that? It's really just about labor flexibility and the holistic view that Workday can provide, and then coupled with sort of the modern technology and bringing agents in to do that. So to make it work, you got to be able to text someone and get the response and understand the conversation to be able to make the shift swap happen. And so it's those things together that make it exciting.
I know you mentioned that, like, how crappy of an experience that is right now. Like, if you're like whoever, you have a sick kid, you can't make your shift, and like you're like, oh, I gotta call the manager who's gonna make me feel like
Oh,
crap.
I know.
Like, like, come on, it's Saturday night. This is you have to, like, okay, well, fine, you're gonna leave us short. And like the whole thing is like a terrible experience. Right? We're gonna make you feel bad versus going, hey, I'm gonna text Olivia and say, hey, I have a problem. My kid's sick. I can't make this. And then the AA guy going, oh my gosh, take care of him. We'll figure this out, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And then immediately a message goes out to every other worker like, hey, we have a shift open up on Saturdays. Anybody want to pick this up? Like, and it's a complete different experience than what we deliver right now to these workers, which is like, I'm going to guilt you into, you might still get it off,
Yes.
but I'm going to
Yeah.
make you feel horrible. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to work here anymore. Right. Like, it's
Yeah.
just terrible.
And make you feel horrible for weeks. I mean, onboarding is another example too. We did a case study with some QSR company that was a Workday Paradox client, and lunch is like the biggest deal, right? It's like before your first day, you don't know if you're going to get lunch. It's going to be provided because you're working QSR. Like, is lunch free? Do I need to pack a lunch? Lunch is expensive. Is that wasted food if I
You're
don't
showing up at
need to
McDonald's
bring
with
a
a peanut
lunch?
butter and jelly
Yeah, with
sandwich.
the peanut butter jelly sandwich. You don't know. Like, it just sounds like a stupid question to ask. You don't want to ask your manager before the first day or
Yeah.
text someone on like whatever time of night to ask about lunch. But to be able to do that through Workday Paradox and ask that question is such a better experience.
Yeah, well, I think those are just great examples of how like we can create net good in the world, right? We're taking an
Mhm.
experience that wasn't very good, and through technology, being able to make it better and improve employee satisfaction and business outcomes. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the fun stuff.
Awesome.
Adam, I'll get you out on this one. Crystal ball, future of frontline hiring. What haven't we solved yet that you want to solve?
Oh, there's lots to solve. So I think we're still at the sort of towards the bottom end of the hierarchy of needs of being able to be fully staffed, and
Yeah.
of course that's one of the most important parts. I think there's going to be a lot with quality measurement of how do we find and retain some of the people that are best, and just a workforce optimization that's going to be really important in this next era. And boy, the ingredients you need to do that is data. To understand more about the people, more about the work that they're doing, and that's where core systems of record have so much of that information and can make that better. So I think I'm excited about that, and what makes me excited is when people are happy at work. One of my favorite notes I think we got was from a shift leader at a quick service restaurant, and what they said was, I forgot how much I really like my job when we're fully staffed. And
Oh,
if you've
oh,
worked at a restaurant, you know
Oh yeah, one
those nights
yeah,
100%.
where you're
Yeah.
short staffed and it
yeah,
stinks. And
Oh yeah.
then, but when you're fully staffed, how good it feels, and how you
yeah,
can have a lot of fun, and you can bond with those people. But um, those are the ones that get you, where you're like, yeah, we're doing a good thing here, and we can be fully staffed. And then there's more to come in the how we make a team work together and how we measure quality, and it's not just efficiency; it's about how you create that customer experience, and that happens through happy employees. And so I think
Yeah.
that's the next frontier.
I always like, from my Applebee's days, like we could always tell if a restaurant was fully staffed because people get annoyed by this. Like when the manager stops by the table and just goes like, "Hey, how was your dinner? Like, is there anything I can get for you?" And they get annoyed by that. But what it shows
I
me is
love
the
that.
actual restaurant's running really well and they have
That's right.
time to go visit
Yeah,
tables.
yeah,
That's
Because
right.
if you don't see a manager, they're probably on the grill, like, or they're behind the
Right.
bar, or they're like
right,
losing their mind because they're understaffed. But if they're stopping by your table, that means that restaurant's running pretty well.
yeah, everyone's
Yeah, I
happy.
love that.
I love when a
Awesome,
manager
Adam.
comes by to the table. I love that. I don't know
I
why that would
know.
annoy anyone. I'm like, "This
Some people
isn't
get really
bothering me."
annoyed by that,
Do
and
they
they're like,
really?
Really?
"Oh, yeah,
No.
yeah." And they're just like, they feel like somehow they think like something's wrong or something. Like,
Yeah,
"No, I'm just checking on
Yeah.
you," you know? Also, we had managers that really disliked doing that. They felt
yeah,
awkward by doing that,
Huh.
you know? And so having to train that, like,
yeah.
a little inside baseball for the casual dining fans out there.
Love that.
Adam, where can people find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is great. And find me at Twitter, Adam Godson, and at a conference near you, likely as well. So happy to connect.
I sent look, Mads, I didn't send you this, but I sent Adam this last night on text. It was a screenshot from X, and it said, "LinkedIn is prison for middle managers."
Oh. That's funny.
Awesome. Find him on LinkedIn. Obviously, thank you for coming on, and thank you for Workday and Paradox for sponsoring the Frontlines pod. We're going to have a ton of conversations coming up. Mads and I are going to be on the road doing some live conversations with TA leaders. We're really excited about that. So for Madeline Laurano, Adam Godson, thanks everybody. We'll do it better next time.